Hello, hello. Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to 5 tips for playing the oboe in a cold climate. Gosh, do I know about that. Some oboe players think that playing the oboe in a cold climate is just inherently stressful. It just has to be that way. And today's presentation is to talk about some coping strategies so that there's not as much stress playing this amazing instrument in a cold climate. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Now, notice I said the word Saskatoon. That is in the middle of the Canadian Prairies. This is quite a northern city that I perform and make my music in. It is often very, very cold here and often very, very dry. It is not unusual in our winters to see many, many, many days of minus 30 degrees Celsius in a row. In fact, I think the first time I played Tombeau de Couperin here was minus 32, and I actually played the concert in snow pants. So, I know what it's like to make music in a cold climate. Thank you so much for joining me today. The reason I'm doing these live presentations has a lot to do with how I got started on the oboe. I'm not originally from Saskatchewan. I'm from another part of Canada, northern Canada as well. It's a very remote place that I grew up, and that's where I started playing the oboe. It was a beautiful, idyllic place full of lakes and trees and beautiful, beautiful rocks. And as a kid, it was a really fun place to play outside. And then I chose the oboe. I loved music as a child, but I found my musical voice when I found the oboe. And that's where all the trouble started, because I was the only oboe player for at least 500 kilometers. And as such, I really struggled on the instrument. I did not have access to good information. I did not have access to a functioning instrument. I did not have access to functioning reeds. And thus, the experience of trying to improve on the instrument was incredibly frustrating. And there were many times that I really wanted to give up. I didn't know how to sound beautiful on the oboe. Once I had access to good information and a community of like-minded oboe players, man, did I improve. And if you fast forward now 25 years, I'm lucky and I'm grateful to make my living playing the oboe. And now that I do a lot of teaching, I reflect that my journey did not have to be that difficult. And so that's why I do these live presentations, is it because I want your experience of the instrument to be just that little bit easier. So thank you for joining me today. As part of my philosophy of teaching, I've created an online program called the Oboe Path. The oboe path is broken down the steps necessary to improve on the instrument. It uses a group online masterclass, a personalized, customized plan, and laser one-on-one feedback to enable an oboist to play with joy and ease. Through the group online masterclass, an oboist joins a community of like-minded oboe players so that there's accountability for practicing and motivation and excitement to improve on the instrument. Through the laser one-on-one feedback, an oboe player doesn't waste their practice time and they start to see their results immediately. Through the customized, personalized plan, they are able to fit the oboe into their busy lives. So let's go on to 5 tips to playing the oboe in a cold climate. So my very first tip is, if you're playing the oboe in a cold climate, is to keep your oboe with you at all times. So this is something that when I speak to students, they find surprising. That if I am on the way home from a rehearsal, for example, and I have my instrument with me, and I need to stop and get milk, that I take that oboe into the grocery store with me. I do not leave my oboe in the car. I don't allow my instrument to, as much as possible, be in a place that's below room temperature. So my idea is that, if you're in the grocery store for 10 minutes, the temperature in your car drops, and so will the temperature of your oboe. So take your oboe with you everywhere. If you are taking the bus and you have to walk to school, that's totally fine. just know that that the most you can keep that oboe inside, the better. Same goes within your house. If you have a warmer or colder part of your house, keep your oboe in the warmer part of your house. That will go a long way to keeping your instrument as much as possible. If you can keep your instrument around 20 degrees, that's going to help a lot in terms of avoiding cracking of the oboe and also the mechanics not slowing down. So those are the things that happen when your oboe gets quite cold, is the actual mechanics of how the keys can work will start to break down, and it won't work as quickly as it does at room temperature. The other thing you are probably concerned about is cracking. And the cracking happens when we put warm air from our bodies inside a cold tube. And this very delicate wood, particularly at the top, it's a very, very small hole, says, ah, ah, and it cracks. And that's, I've had many instruments crack since I moved to Saskatoon. And I understand what that's like to do. So today's presentation is hopeful. I'm hopeful that this will help you avoid that situation. So take your instrument wherever you go. My second tip is if your instrument happens to get really cold. So, for example, you get to school or you get to your rehearsal and it is very, very cold to the touch. What I would suggest, if you have the time available, is to allow that oboe to warm up slowly. So take the oboe case and open it up and allow the oboe to slowly reach to room temperature, so that when you touch it, it doesn't, the metal keys don't feel cold any longer. That's going to go a long way towards towards helping your instrument not crack. The third tip I'm going to show you is something you've maybe seen oboe players do when we're wondering what the heck was going on, which is even in my home, sometimes, I think my instrument, I have a thermometer in my instrument case, and it'll tell me that my instrument is sitting at 18 degrees. And I really want to warm up my instrument before I start putting hot air through it. So what I do is I actually use my own body heat, and I tuck the bottom joint under this armpit, and I tuck the top joint under this armpit, and I'll allow my body heat to warm that instrument up. You may have seen oboe players sitting here at concerts and wondering, what the heck? Why do they have their oboes underneath their arms? And this is what they're doing. They're warming it up. Same goes for if you're in the middle of a rehearsal and the rehearsal hall is a lower temperature. When you have rests, put them underneath here. Just try to keep that instrument as warm as you can when you are playing the instrument. And if you're not blowing into it, because the blowing into it does keep it warm. If you're not blowing into it, you can rest. If you've got 30 bars rest, just rest with it under your armpits. That'll go a long way to helping the mechanics of the instrument work better. My fourth tip has to do with where your oboe is sitting when you're not playing it. I've had very good success with procuring a humidified case. So I bought a very special case. It's called a Lomax case, and it's hermetically sealed. I have a humidipack inside the case that sits underneath the oboe. And I have a little dial in my case that shows me the humidity. I have to change the humidity pack quite regularly because it's so dry here in Saskatchewan. And that case, it has really, really changed the experience of my instrument. It has meant that having consistent humidity inside the case, not just inside my room, but inside the case, has meant that the wood is very, very stable. I find that the pads on my keys do not start leaking as often. Everything just stays much more in working order. And I also put my reeds inside that case. So I use small little reed cases and put it inside my case. I usually have 6 performing reeds at a time, and they're all sitting in a humidified environment as well. And I know there are humidified reed cases. I have never tried one, so I'm not sure if they are something I would recommend. But I do put my reeds inside my humidified instrument case, and that makes a big difference. The kind of humidified case that I have also does come with the option of a heated cover that you can also plug in your car if you're driving somewhere cold. I don't have the heated cover. I put my my hermetically sealed humidified case inside my backpack and often walk to a rehearsal. And I find that when I get to rehearsal, my oboe is still sitting at 22, 23 degrees because it's a very insulated case. So I've always had very good luck with that. I know that some people really swear by those heated cover cases, but that hasn't been my experience. But you do know that is a possibility and out there for you. The fifth thing I wanted to talk to you about, oh, now my oboe is nice and warm, is looking at procuring some sort of option for your oboe that is non-wood. Because, you know, it is distressing when you're in the middle of a concert rehearsal series, or say you have something coming up and you realize that your instrument is cracked, that you're not getting any seal on your instrument, and notes are having, and when your instrument is cracked, the notes just don't come out as easily on your instrument, and that leads to missed attacks, difficulty with articulation, trouble with intonation. There are all these things that happen when your instrument is cracked. So procuring or looking into having another option for an oboe. Now, whether that means you have a second instrument or your primary instrument has some sort of plastic part of it. So I've done many things since I moved to Saskatoon. For many years, I played an oboe that was wood on bottom and entirely plastic on top. And that worked really, really well. It was very stable. I never had to worry about it changing, and that was awesome. I'm currently playing on an instrument that is fully wood and has a plastic liner in it. So the top part of this oboe is lined, and that has worked really, really well for me. There are still circumstances, though, that I won't take this oboe into. Because I'm a member of the Saskatoon Symphony, we often do education programming, and in education programming inside schools. And because of the weather here, we can't always guarantee that where we're going to be playing and performing is at an appropriate temperature. So for that reason, I actually have a second instrument that I really love. It's called a Pristini. It's a new instrument that's on the market. I really like these oboes. And I take my Larray bell from my primary instrument. I put it on this Pristini, and what I really like about that is that then this instrument feels like my primary instrument, so I don't have to feel like I'm switching back and forth and kind of getting used to how this new oboe feels. This actually feels like my primary instrument, but it's entirely plastic. This Pristini oboe is plastic from the top to the bottom. It also has all the keys that my professional oboe does at a much lower price point. So for me, this has been a really good development, because it means when I'm playing in these other environments that might be a little colder, I feel really confident that I'm not going to end up with a cracked instrument because I can pull my Pristini out. So I just wanted to show you, I thought I'd play just a couple scales on each instrument so that you can hear how similar they sound. Even though one is wood and one is plastic. So here's a C major scale. So that's a fully wooden oboe with a plastic liner. Now I'm going to take this bell and I'm going to put it on my Pristini. And I just thought this was so cool that I could just make a secondary instrument feel like my primary instrument, which is why I'm showing you today, because it's really opened up a world of possibilities for me. So now I'm going to play the same thing on this one. So what I really like is that all of the intonation is sitting in the same place as my primary instrument. So I don't have to feel like I'm switching back and forth. And I can feel confident playing this plastic oboe in concert and not have to worry about it cracking. I hope you've enjoyed today's presentation of 5 tips for playing the oboe in a cold climate. I have a free training that is attached to this presentation. That if you're interested, it's called "How to Choose a Better Oboe Reed." Now, the climate that you're playing your oboe reeds in has a lot to do with how well your reeds work. And so I developed a training that talks a lot about things to consider when the weather changes or the particular climate that you're choosing your reeds in. And it has a downloadable PDF and a video. There's a link below this live training, and you can click on that link and get access. It's completely free. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's all become the oboe players that everyone wants to play with. Play the oboe with joy and ease. Take care.